I'd like you to take you back. Oh wait, no, let's do that over. Where we're continuing with an continuing. So this is where my brain is at. I've already tried to do this about 5 times to come up with a worthy intro for this episode. Something about alternate history, something about a whole new world, something about taking you back to 1780. But all of that I keep doing is having dyslexic moments and misspeaking. What the blit, brain? Let's just get right into it, shall we? Today's miniature game is Malifaux.
The story of Malifaux begins in 2005 with a couple of independent game makers who decided to get friendly with a sculptor. They produced miniatures for pretty much everyone and anything back in their heyday, much like most early miniature makers. But 4 years later, in 2009, they decided to make an actual cohesive game revolving around the cool miniatures they had made with their sculptor friends. This would become Malifaux.
Now, because Malifaux has a unique landscape in nerddom, and I'm talking very unique landscape in nerddom, I was instantly drawn to it.
This is the only game I know of where your strike team of steampunk Prussian mercenaries can engage the Nephilim of ancient Palestine as they plot against the machinations of the Elder Gods and their emanations, while the Fae themselves attempt to regain control over a swampy hellscape populated by redneck gremlins who build golems out of whiskey barrels to defend themselves from the onslaught of fascist cowboy witch hunters who are trying to put down a rebellion of unionized mech magicians, Russian cannibal Wendigo cultists, necromancers, and mad scientists intent on animating the corpses of foes or capture the spirits to release in the form of grudge-like onryos, or pour the literal forms of Japanese monsters out of mouths on the back of their heads for the purpose of serving a ninja triad mistress with spies in literally every other faction.
It is basically the warp for my 40k fans. And I know you have to be some kind of nerd to make miniatures and design rules for a miniature game, but this goes above and beyond.
You'd think with how perfectly this fits into every aspect of nerd culture, at least one of us would have gotten wind of this game around the time it came out, but that just wasn't the case. And I think I would argue that for us in my region, it was all a matter of just not getting the right publicity, not being available enough.
I said in the last video that painting miniatures is a lot like making compote. You work with what you have available to you. If the only thing you have available to you in your town is berries, you make berry compote. If the only thing you have in your town available to you is vampires and goblins, then you're out of luck and you're gonna have to go to someone else's town to get berries to make berry compote. The same is true of our miniature selection here in New York. We only really had Games Workshop in my region, so Wyrd Miniatures, never heard of them, could never look for them, could never paint them.
Despite this, when Malifaux 2nd Edition came on the scene in 2012, I was instantly hooked. But because there was so much dead stuff, cosmic horror, steampunk and demonology, and Warhammer Fantasy and 40k, I wanted to get as far away from that as I could when I picked up Malifaux, so I gravitated towards Kirai. Her aesthetic is all about summoning ghosts from Japanese mythology, and she herself isn't the bearer of any gun or knife, but a pair of giant shears. That's pretty awesome. I already painted her 2nd edition version, but that got me curious about the 1st edition. It's heroic scale, not like her new model, so nothing new to report here except that I already like the true scale one better. So we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. Instead of me just improvising my way through all this, I actually have a plan. So once I'm all set up, have all my supplies, we're just gonna dive right in. So to start off with, I wanted Kirai's kimono to be pink this time around, because I've never actually painted anything pink very well before, so this is good practice for me. We'll start with a base of dark pink, and then dry brush up over it. Take a quick gloss break, and then go right on to picking out the blues of her kimono and her shawl. I'll highlight those, dry brush them up, highlight it some more, take another drink of glass, and then we can move on to the worst part of any hue. The flesh. The flesh cannot be dry brushed. I have to get in there and highlight everything by hand, which is very annoying and makes me want to drink more kvass. partially because I don't want this model looking like a typical anime girl with dyed hair, partially because it helps the mini look better even as I'm painting, and partially because it's pretty much appropriate to do, I have to clean up the hair right now with just solid black. This will form a foundation for whatever highlights I choose to add to it later.
So, usually what I do when dry brushing black hair is I dry brush it over with a gray, but I'm looking at my wife's hair right now, and in the light, her hair doesn't show up gray, it shows up brown. So, as you can see, I am going to try something, and it may not work, so this could be a train wreck, and we'll see if we need to redo anything, but I'm actually combining brown with black instead of white with black for a highlight here.
So we highlight the hair and then attach the iconic shears to the rest of the model. Paint them in my usual Necron silver way. If you don't know how that works, go see my other videos. And now add the blood effect with some contrast paint. If you've got a problem with me using contrast paint, I bet you're one of those hipsters who beta tested Malifaux back in 2009, right?
And then base landscape and what the... I knew it, I called it, I would forget it. The pretty details. Idinahui. Alright, let's get to it.
So by little details, I mean the designs on the sleeves of the kimono. Originally, the box art showed something like a Sharingan from Naruto, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to do a floral design, which starts with the base of this golden yellow and will be outlined very carefully in white. Some people may ask me, or never will ask me, what it's like to be an anxious amateur painter like myself. Well, to get the proper experience of being me, do this detail work yourself on any one of your miniatures, and feel the anxiety flow through you. As your hands sweat, they start to shake, you start to wonder if you're making the right decision and how much of the model you'll need to redo, and then you will truly understand what it means to be an amateur painter painting above your league. Take a final congratulatory sip of kvass, and behold the work that you have unleashed upon the world of Malifaux.
Well, that wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it would be, unlike the character herself. This video is part of a two-part video series about teaching my wife how to paint. She was looking over my shoulder the entire time, and since Malifaux is her favorite game, I thought this would be a great place to start. But next video, we will actually get to see her paint her first miniature ever. So we look forward to sharing that experience with you guys when we join you next time. See you then.